it's Doris with Wilde Books, and I am here with my Victober wrap-up. I know it is quite late, but I persevered, and I'm proud, and I'm going to wrap it up. So I picked 5 books for Victober, and I finished 2 tiny ones in October. Oops. There were just too many fun readathons, and I got distracted. But I finished them all, so here we go. The first 2 that I did finish were Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest and The Picture of Dorian Gray. Me and Oscar, we got along so famously. He is rather brilliant, in my opinion. The Importance of Being Earnest is a play, and it is so witty and lighthearted and fun and just thoroughly enjoyable read. His wordplay is just And then the contrast with The Picture of Dorian Gray. Wow, this is so dark and gothic and sinister. Heavy duty stuff here, and I don't know, I just was really caught up in Oscar Wilde's writing and just want to know more about him and his works. So I found this guy on Amazon, The Complete Works of Oscar Wilde, 21 bucks. But I happened to go to the used bookstore, and lo and behold, there it was for $3. I was so excited. So this is obviously not something I will pick up and read from cover to cover, but I mean, look at that, how fun. But I think it's something I'll pick up every year for Victober and read a bit out of. I know that the first thing I want to read is his fairy tale collection. So I'm very excited about discovering a love for Oscar Wilde. Then the next thing I finished was the read-along, which was Miss Majora by Margaret Oliphant. This I found absolutely charming. This sat very well with me. From what I've heard, Victorian literature is very romantic with a capital R, meaning very emotionally infused, which we will get to later. This book seemed to be atypical for Victorian reads. The main character, Miss Majora, she didn't play that game. She, at 15, it opens up at 15 with her mother passing away, and she wants to leave school and take care of her dad. Her dad's not quite ready for her hovering, so he sends her back to school for 3 more years. But at 18, she does come home and take care of her dad, and just takes care of the community. She just is very much little miss in charge of her world, and I just thought it was fun to read. I really enjoyed her character. One of the funny things to me at the beginning was her cousin is very much in love with her and wants to marry her, and she basically tells him that he needs to go get a job and learn to be a real man. I just laughed. I was like, go you. She never worries. You don't hear all that talk about her being a spinster and junk, and it just was very refreshing to me. One thing that I thought was really interesting was there's a political series in the middle, a local run for office, and she chooses a candidate and campaigns for him based on the fact that he's a good man. She doesn't worry about what his platform is. He's not even in the same political party as her dad. She doesn't care about any of that. She's just, he's a good man. And at first I was like, oh, that's so silly, you know. You gotta have your opinions and what you're concerned about, definitely. But then I was like, wait a minute. There's more truth in that than I thought about it first, because truly my political views lie on both sides of the fence, some here, some there. But what I would really like right now is a man of integrity. So, yeah. But anyway, I love the ending. It was heartwarming to me, bearing in mind the era that it was written in. But yes, I liked it a lot. Then the next one was Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. I've talked about George Eliot before this year on the channel because this is my third George Eliot this year. I find George Eliot to be a little too serious. She just tries to make every darn sentence a serious thing, and it just weighs me down. So this book was quite a slog fest at 700 and some odd pages, but I really enjoyed it. I did. I couldn't read a lot at a time because I would, like I said, get kind of whew with it, but I enjoyed this book a lot. It's my favorite of George Eliot. I wouldn't really say that I am much enamored with Middlemarch or Silas Marner, but this one, the only reason I picked it up, because I wasn't really into George Eliot, I picked it up because it's about the Jewish nationalist movement and going back to Israel. And I thought that would be a really neat thing to read about in the time that it was occurring. So that was why I picked it up, and that aspect did not disappoint. It was very interesting to read about the Victorian perspective on Jewish persons. And the other thing that I thought was really neat was one of the main characters. There's kind of a dual storyline. So there's Daniel Deronda, and then there's another main character, Gwendolyn, and she has a personality that I don't gravitate toward this kind of person. But George Eliot did such a great job of making me sympathetic toward her, even though I didn't like her. She is probably one of the most richly layered characters that I've ever read in literature, so really well done. And another thing that I thought was neat about this book was, I've laughed before that I think George Eliot is very tropey, but she probably created the tropes, but still they come across as very tropey in the body of modern literature. I mean, I realize she created them probably, but you know what I'm saying. But this book has probably the best trope, and not often written, and that's the one where you really love someone and they are very kind to you, but they don't love you back. And she does that one so well in this book. It's very emotional. It is. So, and a great turning point that I mentioned in one of my vlogs. Really good book. I totally, yes, this is good. It's a commitment, but it's good. And then, oh dear, this is an unpopular opinion, truly. And yes, and I think this poor book has suffered from hype for me. I just went into it thinking, yeah, this is going to be the one, and it was not. North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Not so much. I mean, it was fine. It was a good book, but personality-wise, we just didn't get along at all. I am not so much into drama, melodrama, let's even go further. It's just not my thing. And while this had an excellent storyline, the drama just, every time it happened, it just removed me from the story, and I started laughing internally. Yeah, so it's supposed to be so serious and emotional, and I'm sitting here laughing. I'm so immature. But yeah, I couldn't handle it. The parents got on my nerves. I just didn't, they were immature. I mean, I felt bad for the mom when she got ill. That's a different story, but at the beginning, seriously? But the dad, like, I thought it was so neat that he would leave the church because of his beliefs. And then they didn't talk about it anymore. I was like, that was such an interesting point, but you just dropped it like a hot potato. And then the dude, every time he was writhing in agony against the wall because girl wouldn't give him the time of day, I was just like, oh my gosh. Sorry. I thought this storyline was so good, but it didn't deliver for me. The one thing I did really like was the lower class workforce. They were spot on. They were my kind of people. Yeah. But anyway. So, yeah. So I'm curious. These three were all written by women. I didn't plan that. It just happened that I read 3 written by women for Victober. And then when I was at the same used bookstore, I picked up a few other books that I might want to read, Victorian novels. Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations. Now, I've read both of these in my teen years, but I don't really remember them. I think I will when I start reading them. But I just thought it would be good, since he's such a powerhouse of the Victorian era, to read some of his books and see, you know, how I get along with Charles Dickens. I'm curious about that. And then Anthony Trollope. I grabbed these at the used bookstore. I really want to buy the series in the Penguin English Library editions. These are the most amazing books to read. They're just the perfect feel in your hands of a book ever. I do want to buy the Anthony Trollopes in there because they're gorgeous, but it's silly to buy, you know, new expensive books when you don't even know if you're going to like them. I mean, I do it all the time, but somehow I found discipline with this series. But Anthony Trollope, I bought the first 2 for a couple bucks each at the used bookstore. And I bought the first 2 because I hear quite often online that the first one is only about a 3-star read, but the other 4 or 5 are, the other 5 are 4 or 5-star reads. So I thought I would read the first 2 and figure out if I like the series or not, and then hopefully I love it and can buy the pretty books. So that's my plan. So I'm curious, based on my comments about these 3 lovelies, what do you think I'm going to think about Charles Dickens and Anthony Trollope? Where does he fit in with that spectrum of serious, dramatic, and just right? Anyway, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching, and I will be back soon because Vlogmas.